I still can't believe what happened on what was supposed to be the happiest day of our lives. My fiancée Emma and I had spent months planning our intimate backyard wedding. Everything was perfect. The weather, the decorations, the smiles on our guests' faces. Emma looked absolutely breathtaking in her dress as her father began walking her down our makeshift aisle between rows of white chairs. The string quartet played softly as she took her first steps toward me. I remember thinking in that moment how lucky I was until a shrill voice cut through the music like a knife. "Stop this right now. This event is unauthorized and must be shut down immediately." The music screeched to a halt as all 50 of our guests turned to see Deborah Wilson, or as everyone in the neighborhood called her, Karen, storming through our side gate. She was clutching her clipboard like it was some kind of sacred weapon, her face contorted with righteous fury as she pushed past my stunned mother-in-law. "This is a violation of HOA bylaws," she shouted, marching straight up to the flower arch where I stood with our officiant. She actually grabbed the microphone from him and addressed our guests. "This gathering has not been approved by the Homeowners Association Board, and I'm ordering everyone to disperse immediately." Emma froze midway down the aisle, her father's arm tightening protectively around hers. The look of shock and heartbreak on her face is something I'll never forget. Karen and I had history. Unpleasant history. When Emma and I moved into Whispering Pines Estates 8 months ago, we were excited about our first home together. What we didn't anticipate was that our next-door neighbor was the president of what might be the most controlling HOA in the state of Arizona. From day one, Karen seemed to view us as a threat to her perfectly controlled suburban kingdom. First, she complained about the shade of blue we painted our front door, claiming it was Caribbean azure when the approved color was seaside blue. Then came the warnings about our bird feeder attracting undesirable wildlife. She even measured the height of our grass with a ruler one Sunday morning while we were having breakfast on the patio. When we planted a small vegetable garden, she sent us a 3-page letter about unsightly agricultural activities visible from common areas. We had done our research before planning our wedding. The city noise ordinance allowed events until 10 p.m. and we had applied for and received all necessary permits. Our wedding was scheduled to end by 8 p.m. well within regulations. We'd even notified all our immediate neighbors who were supportive and mostly invited anyway. We specifically checked the HOA bylaws, which had no provisions requiring approval for private gatherings that didn't use common areas. But Karen insisted otherwise. In the weeks leading up to our wedding, the passive-aggressive campaign began. First came the email's reminder about gathering restrictions in Whispering Pines, followed by anonymous complaints to the HOA board about potential parking issues. She even went outdoor warning neighbors about the disruptive event we were planning. 3 days before the wedding, we found a formal-looking notice taped to our door claiming our event required board approval with a minimum 30-day review period. My brother, who happens to be a real estate attorney, assured us it was completely unenforceable. "She's making up rules that don't exist," he told us. "Just ignore her and enjoy your day." The morning of our wedding arrived and everything seemed perfect. The caterers set up without issue. The chairs were arranged in neat rows and fairy lights were strung across our backyard. But as guests began arriving, I spotted Karen pacing along the sidewalk in front of our house, smartphone in hand, filming people as they walked up our driveway. She was wearing what I can only describe as her official outfit, navy blue blazer with gold buttons, crisp white blouse, and a large HOA president name badge pinned prominently to her chest. "Just ignore her," Emma said, squeezing my hand. "This is our day. She can't ruin it." How wrong we were. When Karen burst into our ceremony, the entire wedding party froze in shock. But when she grabbed the microphone, something in me snapped. I stepped forward to reclaim it, but she yanked it away. "You are in direct violation of community standards," she shouted, her voice echoing through our sound system. "This event will incur a $500 fine, and I have the authority to shut it down immediately." She began flipping through pages on her clipboard as if searching for the specific bylaw we were violating. Emma's father, a normally gentle 65-year-old retired school teacher, approached Karen. "Ma'am, this is private property and you weren't invited. Please leave now so my daughter can get married." What happened next left everyone gasping. Karen physically shoved him aside, causing him to stumble backward. "Don't touch me," she shrieked, despite being the one who had made contact. "I am conducting official HOA business." She then turned toward Emma, who was still standing frozen in the middle of the aisle, and pointed an accusing finger. Your decorations exceed the height limitations. You're creating a public nuisance, and these cars are blocking sidewalk access. By this point, several guests had taken out their phones and begun recording. My best man stepped up beside me and whispered, "I'm calling 911. Meanwhile, Karen had spotted the wedding arch and was actually trying to pull it down, claiming it was an unauthorized structure. Our photographer, bless her quick thinking, had been capturing every moment of Karen's meltdown. My cousin, a popular TikTok creator, was already live streaming the entire fiasco. Karen seemed oblivious to how much evidence was being collected as she continued her rampage, reading aloud from what appeared to be handwritten additions to the official HOA documents. It took less than 10 minutes for 2 police cruisers to arrive. By then, Karen had managed to knock over the gift table and was standing on a chair reading aloud, violations to our increasingly angry guests. Several of Emma's relatives had formed a protective circle around her, while my groomsmen had positioned themselves between Karen and the wedding setup. The officers, a female sergeant and a younger male officer, entered through the side gate and quickly assessed the situation. The sergeant approached Karen first. "Ma'am, can you please step down and explain what's happening here?" she asked calmly. Karen whirled around, clipboard still clutched to her chest. "Finally, I'm Deborah Wilson, president of the Whispering Pines Homeowners Association. I'm shutting down this unauthorized event according to our community bylaws." The sergeant's expression remained neutral. "Are you the property owner, Miss Wilson?" "No, but as HOA president, do you have court-ordered documentation giving you authority to enter private property against the owner's wishes?" Karen blinked momentarily, thrown off her script. "I don't need that. The bylaws clearly state." "Actually, you do need that," the sergeant interrupted. "Without it, you're trespassing on private property." While this conversation was happening, multiple guests approached the other officer, showing video footage of Karen pushing Emma's father and attempting to destroy property. Emma's father himself, now with a torn suit jacket, gave his statement while holding an ice pack to his shoulder. The sergeant turned back to Karen. "Miss Wilson, please step aside with me so we can discuss this further." Karen's face flushed deep red. "I will not be silenced. These people," she gestured wildly at Emma and me, "have been flouting rules since they moved in. This wedding is illegal, and Miss Wilson," the sergeant cut in more firmly, "step aside now, or you will be removed. I am exercising my authority as Miss Wilson. Turn around and place your hands behind your back. You're under arrest for criminal trespass, disorderly conduct, and simple assault." The change in Karen's expression was something I'll never forget. The self-righteous indignation drained from her face, replaced by utter disbelief as the sergeant took her clipboard and handed it to her partner before gently but firmly cuffing her wrists. "This is outrageous." Karen spluttered as reality set in. "You can't arrest me. Do you know who I am? I'll have your badge for this. I'm just enforcing the rules." As the officers began walking her toward the gate, she looked back at the gathered crowd, seemingly expecting someone, anyone, to come to her defense. Instead, as she was escorted past the rows of chairs, spontaneous applause broke out among our guests. My cousin shouted, "This is going viral, Karen." While continuing to film, the look of stunned betrayal on her face as she realized no one was on her side was almost pitiful. Almost. After Karen was placed in the police car, the female sergeant returned to speak with us. She apologized for the disruption and took formal statements from several witnesses. "You have all the necessary city permits," she confirmed after reviewing our documentation. "The HOA has no legal authority to enter private property or shut down a permitted event. You're well within your rights to continue your celebration." Emma, who had been quietly composed throughout the chaos, suddenly stepped forward. Her dress was slightly wrinkled, her carefully arranged hair coming loose, but she looked more determined than I'd ever seen her. "Everyone," she called out, "please take your seats. I'm getting married today and nothing, especially not her, is going to stop that." The cheer that went up from our guests was deafening. The quartet resumed playing. Emma's father retook his place beside her, and we continued our ceremony with a joy and defiance that made it even more meaningful than we'd originally planned. Karen's day in court came 3 weeks later. She was charged with criminal trespass, disorderly conduct, and simple assault. The videos from our wedding had indeed gone viral with millions of views across multiple platforms. The hashtag Karen's wedding crash was trending for days. Local news picked up the story and neighbors began coming forward with their own stories of Karen's overreach and harassment. When the judge handed down the sentence, 30 days in jail suspended in favor of 1-year probation, mandatory anger management classes, 200 hours of community service, and $5,000 in fines. Karen's face crumpled in disbelief. "But I was just doing my job," she whispered, seemingly unable to comprehend that her actions had real consequences. The judge was unmoved. "The HOA president position does not grant you legal authority to trespass or assault people, Miss Wilson. Perhaps this experience will help you better understand the limits of your role." As a final blow, the emergency HOA board meeting held the following day resulted in Karen's immediate removal as president by unanimous vote. As she was escorted from the meeting by security, her perfectly co-fitted hair disheveled and mascara streaking down her face, I heard her wail, "But I've been president for 7 years. You can't do this to me." But they could and they did. The board members had finally had enough. Karen's reign of control had ended not with the quiet slip of resignation, but in the loud public humiliation that she had tried so hard to impose on others. As for Emma and me, we continued with our day, unbroken and triumphant. Despite the drama that had overshadowed our wedding, the love and support from our friends and family only grew stronger. Our ceremony, though interrupted, became a story of resilience and defiance in the face of petty tyranny. We didn't just get married that day, we celebrated our victory over a woman who had tried to ruin our special moment with her own warped sense of authority. Our wedding photos went viral as well, with people from all over the country reaching out to congratulate us. Even our local news ran a segment on the Karen wedding crash with Emma and me sharing our side of the story, emphasizing how important it is to stand up against unjust authority, even when it's wrapped in a clipboard and a badge. Karen's removal as HOA president didn't restore the peace in Whispering Pines though. Many of our neighbors who had silently watched her rule with an iron fist began speaking out, organizing to create a new board that would focus on community rather than control. Emma and I became accidental symbols of resistance, though we never wanted that role. All we wanted was a wedding. Months later, the community gathered at our house to celebrate not only our marriage but the new spirit of unity that was beginning to grow. Karen's removal had left a space for others to step up and lead with kindness, something Whispering Pines had been sorely lacking. As for Karen, she stayed out of the limelight, though I heard whispers that her future at HOA meetings was now non-existent. As we reflect on what was supposed to be the happiest day of our lives, I realize it was, not just because of the ceremony, but because of the power of standing together with love, laughter, and a little bit of defiance. We didn't let Karen take our day from us, and in the end, we won much more than a wedding. We won our right to live freely and joyfully without fear of being controlled by anyone, even if they had a clipboard and a name tag.